Showcase Week begins September 29th.
The week of September 29th. Mark it on your calendar.
Showcase Week begins September 29th.
What's going on in Seattle's housing market? Should you buy, sell, or refinance? Also, find out what's up and what's down in the stock market. And things heat up as Inside explores a controversial practice of the Ku Klux Klan and the constitutional fight over this issue. Don't miss the fall season premieres, Friday, October 4th.
Tanamera, the saga of forbidden love, treachery, and betrayal. Saturday at 9 on KCTS.
We go backstage to Hugh Downs with Christopher Keene.
Christopher, in this last act, would it be appropriate to think of it as a sort of keystone in a great arch of the opera?
Absolutely. Mozart was probably the greatest of musical architects, and the whole piece is planned out very carefully, not only from the shape of the acts, but from their key structures, from the amount of music each character has to sing. It's one gigantic building. You can't take a single brick out of it without the feeling that something is missing.
Now, this is not something where he just tacked music onto a libretto. He had a hand in structuring the entire thing.
Absolutely. There are actually two arias which are almost always omitted in performance, one for Basilio and one for Marcellina in the fourth act. They're almost always omitted, even in Mozart's own day, because it would take the evening well past midnight.
Oh, really?
Yes.
But they're probably good arias.
Oh, well, he never wrote bad arias. It's just, it makes for a very long evening.
Now, this has been in repertory for a long time. What would be the motivation for changing it? You know, why call in a John Copley to revamp something?
Well, to begin with, the very excellence of the production stemmed from Copley's acute vision and understanding of the detail of the piece in the first place. And he is such a distinguished director that we want to give each new generation of performers in the production a chance to actually have contact with him so that they get close to the original spirit of the production.
Is the success of this production and other things like it, nothing else is like it now that I think of it, but the fact that this is a repertory company, does that make for more success than if you just had individual stars?
No question about it. This is a piece about human beings. In fact, I think the most amazing thing about Figaro is that you feel you know every single one of those characters. You met them somewhere. You know who they are and what they think and how they feel. And you can't bring out that kind of relationships on the stage unless people have a chance to work together, not only in these parts, but in other parts. So the people in our company have sung together literally hundreds of times in this opera, in other operas, in other cities around the world. So that kind of closeness brings about an ensemble spark that you don't get when people fly in from various cities around Europe, rehearse for a day and a half, and go on stage.
Right. And yet, even reassembling this particular group, they do travel a lot, and that's not always easy, is it?
They travel a great deal, and we've made some changes in the past 2 years in the way the company schedules. We've put all the performances much closer together, so we ask people to spend less time with us, and that means they're not flying off to Europe for 2 weeks and then having to come back and readjust, get over jet lag, sing a recital here, sing a concert there. So we compress the performances very close together, and that keeps the spirit of energy high and the spirit of ensemble very high.
As complicated as a thing like this is, I'm always amazed at how little rehearsal time apparently is needed for professionals who know the roles and whatnot, and they can somehow make it into magic on a relatively short rehearsal time.
Well, it depends on what you think of as short rehearsal time. Remember, every member of the orchestra has played the piece many hundreds of times.
Right.
Most of the people have sung it dozens at least of times. The stage crew knows the production inside out. So very little time is needed to take it back to the level of polish that we feel is necessary to maintain.
It would be, if everybody was starting from scratch, it would take years, wouldn't it?
Then you would start with a much longer rehearsal period. But when people are repeating, or there's only one or two new cast members, you can concentrate on those elements that are new and rely upon the great professionalism of the people in the opera. So I think that's what makes opera so exciting, is the number of skilled people you have working together, not just singing, but orchestra playing, dancing, lighting. It's fantastic.
All of what's going on right now.
All of the noise you hear in the background are people who have extraordinary skills that they've spent years acquiring, and the number of people who are devoting those energies to what's seen on the stage is simply fantastic. And when you have a really great performance like this, what you're seeing is really the tip of the iceberg, because hundreds of people have contributed to it, in some cases over dozens of years.
Yes. You know, it intrigues me that Well, many of the things that you do here, and particularly this opera, is enlightening as well as entertaining. And that is a dimension that you seem to strive to get across. And do you ever feel there's some moral responsibility to getting across that dimension?
Well, the arts in general are tools for change. They're tools for transforming people's lives. We learn about ourselves by what we see on the stage or what we hear in the music. So we certainly have a moral responsibility. We also have a responsibility to be entertaining as well as uplifting and educating. And that we've tried to implement by not only the tightness of the ensemble, but the use of the super titles so that people can really be a part of the drama itself. The City Opera is really a crusader. We believe in converting people to embracing opera as a part of their lives. It's a staggering statistic that very few people take advantage of the tremendous renaissance of opera that's taken place in this country over the past 2 decades. And the City Opera is very proud to be a crusader that brings opera to millions of people who may have never seen it before.
And technology plays a part in that, really, doesn't it?
Tremendous part. Last year's Little Night Music was seen by more people than had ever seen a single broadcast of a live opera in history.
You remember when Guy Cazzazo was the head of the Met, and somebody suggested to him a radio Saturday matinee thing, and he turned it down. It was Edward Johnson, I think, that okayed it and made the Met Saturday broadcasts a reality.
A national institution.
And brought a lot of opera to people that otherwise wouldn't have heard it.
No, you can't turn the clock back on technology. All you can do is try to find a way to adapt it to further the goals that you have in your art form. We now use a great deal more technology than we ever thought possible. The super titles have been computerized.
Is that right?
Yes.
Now, how does that work, computerized?
Well, it used to be a series of slides. And it's terrifying because in the course of any one opera, there are literally 500 or 600, 700 slides that have to be broadcast. And you never knew if they were going to drop at the right time, if one was going to stick, if one was going to jam up or heat up. In fact, during one summer, we had a couple of them actually burn up in the slide projector while they were being projected. So now it's all on computer disk, which allows us to change the translation more or less instantly. So we're constantly refining it. And the super titles have proved to be a tremendous tool for developing a larger audience for opera in this country.
Great book. Is there anything else computerized? Some of the stage effects and everything seem to be impossible for humans to accomplish.
Well, the light board actually is something that we're trying to get the City of New York to help us replace because it's one of the more old-fashioned aspects of the State Theater. There have been tremendous computerization steps taken forward in lighting techniques and controls.
Right.
And in acoustic broadcasting, in amplification of offstage effects, for instance, there have been tremendous steps forward. So we're constantly trying to stay abreast of stage technology. It's expensive, and sometimes you don't know exactly how to adapt it at first, but eventually you figure out the right way.
You know, this seems to warrant the actual 4 acts and 3 intermissions, because there's been a tendency to want to condense some of that, maybe have a central intermission and do the first half of the opera and then the last half. But even if that was technically possible, I suppose it is technically possible, it seems to be better to allow the situation to rest for those intermissions.
Well, that's the way he wrote it, although in Europe the general tradition is to do it exactly as you described.
Do they usually?
The first 2 acts are combined, the last 2 acts are combined. It makes for a very long first act, I have to tell you. It's well over an hour and 20 minutes, sort of the length of a Broadway first act. And I think that the breaking up of the story in this way makes it easier to digest and much easier to enjoy.
So there's some value to doing it as he conceived it then, I guess.
Clearly, it's always best to do it.
That's proof that it's an immortal work, I guess.
Yeah, it's as close as immortal as any work we know can ever be.
Marvelous to hear, and great to talk to you.
Thanks, Hugh.
Thank you so much.
Great to see you back.
And now we'll take a look at that very complicated last act.
And indeed, we shall in just a few moments. Christopher Keene is the general director of the New York City Opera Company. He is also a very distinguished conductor, former music director of the Syracuse Symphony Orchestra in New York, and of the Long Island Philharmonic in New York. And, of course, Christopher Keene conducts many of the performances here in the New York State Theater by the New York City Opera. Well, we're just about ready for the 4th act of Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro, which takes place in the garden of the castle. And despite all the, well, I shouldn't trigger the end, you'll hear it and see it in just a few moments. Our conductor is Scott Bergeson, and we await his arrival on the podium in the pit here in the New York State Theater. And as you can hear, the audience all has returned. Here is Scott Bergeson for Act 4 of The Marriage of Figaro.
Cos'hai? L'ho perduta, cugino. Cosa? Cosa? La spilla che a me ieri il padrone per ricaro a Susanna.
A Susanna? La spilla? E così che riveli il mestiere, già sai, fa tutto sì, vedi perché fai?
Aveva nego in collera.
E non vedi il mio scherzo? Osserva! Questa è la spilla che il padre ricari ti diedi alla Susanna e servi di sigillo al bigliettino. Vedi, se io sono instrutto.
E perché chiedi a me quando sai tutto?
Ma vien giusto di dir come il padrone ti chiede la commissione.
Che miracoli! Tieni, fanciulla, reca questa spilla alla bella Susanna e dille: questo è il sigillo dei Pini.
Ah, dei Pini!
E perché mi soggiunse? Guardati alcun non vedo. Ma tu già tacerai.
Sicuramente.
A te già niente preme.
Niente, niente.
Addio mio bel cugino, vado a Susanna e poi da Firmino.
Madre!
Figlio!
Al bordo!
Calmaci, figlio mio!
Al bordo, dico!
Flemma, flemma, e tu! Flemma! Il fatto è serio e pensarci conviene. Ma guarda un poco che ancora non sai chi si prende gioco.
Ma quella spilla, oh madre, quella stessa che poc'anzi ei raccolse.
Iper, ma questo più ti porgi un dritto di stare in guardia e vivere in sospetto. Ma non sai se da te.
Allerta dunque, il loco del congresso so dove è stabilito.
Dove vai, figlio mio?
A vendicare tutti i mariti, addio!
Nel padiglione manca, ecco venisse, e questi non venisse.
Ehi, Barbarina! Chi balla?
Sono quelli che invitasti a venire.
Brutto cieco, sembri un cospirantore, e diamo in solo quei tasti affarati, o vedrete tra poco.